Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Thursday, October 9th. And so far, we're holding on to their gains. Yesterday, we made a surprise little rally out of this. So we started off range bound yesterday. It ended up turning into a nice little move to the upside. They were flirting with the highs. And then they popped very late in the session. At the very end, they popped and actually extended. And they've been holding on to that in the overnight. So I guess we are back on stage one again, extending to the upside. It's a slow grind. It just definitely doesn't feel like it's really moving a whole lot to the upside, but it is grinding. And as I said, I mean, you saw it the other day, the elevator down kind of a day. It wasn't quite an elevator down day yesterday, day before yesterday. But it did. But it starts like that, and then it just never stops. It just keeps going. I guess we're not there yet. So at this point, I stay on the long side of it. It's traded from the long side of the market. The only thing I have on the calendar today, I mean, the news is not coming out, but we have Jerome Powell speaking at 8:30. So it could be some reaction there. I don't know if he's going to speak or not, but if he does, or something comes out on that one, we may see a reaction. So let's pay attention to that. That's 8:30 today in about 25 minutes. How do I stay on the long side of the market? Look to buy weakness, 67.95, 67.85 for rotations up. Below 85, take off the long bias, go back range bound. So pretty quick on changing my bias on this one. Um, and just because uh, we're up here to push in the in price discovery edges, or push in the upper edge in price discovery. And it's easy enough to knock it down, but if they trade below 85, just take off the long bias, go back range bound. You're still looking to buy against the 75s, the 65s, maybe even down to the 50s, 60s here, that mode of yesterday. But if they keep going below beyond that, well, then we had to start worrying a bit. But to get started, we'll see if they can extend to the upside or if the buying interest is still there. You can tell the areas to really pay attention to is still the 50s, the 40s, and the 30s. These support areas at the bottom. If they come out, that's when we have a change in direction. So that's when this whole area comes out. That's when we had to start worrying about the change in capital flow, change in potential direction, and a bigger pullback. So, but we had the news come out on the potential peace in the Middle East kind of thing, right? So that was a very positive step. Those are the kind of things which potentially could derail markets. Something blows up like that, but that has been with us for a long time. But it's just one more positive data point out there. Uh, so stay on the long side. Look to buy weakness at this point against the 67, 95, 85, below 85. Take off the long bias. Let's go back range bound. You're still looking to buy against the 75s, 65s, down to the 50s, 55, 60s here for rotations up. And I mean, if this lower support area comes out, then we may have something going on. If the 85 comes out, you're going back range bound. That's the spot you kind of had to want to get short if you're trying to get the short retracement trade down to these lower areas. Chasing the shorts on the way down here is just not very fruitful. That's going to be probably setting up for more of a problem, but it just depends a little bit of what it looks like. But always be cautious. If you don't sell into support area, that could always be a pretty bad decision. So that's how we get started, trading it from the long side until the market shows us otherwise. On the way up, not going to be very aggressive on the short. You had a potential short here to get in that overnight mode here at the 68.05s, potentially 68.15s. I could have made that, I'm going to make that a little bit fatter, a little bit bigger. So you see a big ledge up here in the overnight, I'm going to include that one. So it's going to be doing like that, drag it down like so, yeah. A little bit bigger there, right there, but you see that the high of yesterday, nice, like big ledge here in the overnight, and then you have the London session. So 68.05, 68.15, potential short opportunities, but I'm not going to be very aggressive about that at all. All right. You always have the opportunity for quick scalps on the short side throughout the trading day. You just have to find the spots for it. And it could be, I mean, if you're not trading for big swings, that could certainly work well. But favor the long side of the market, if anything. That's going to be give you a little bit better shot at a successful trade. On the bond market, pretty much range bound and not going anywhere. They're pretty much stuck here, so I'm not going to spend too much about it. So bond market back in that range, going sideways. And the only way you start on the bond market, uh, look for a few levels up. So at 1705s, 1710s, 1716s. Look to buy weakness, 1624, 1616 for rotations back up again. So that's pretty much the areas to pay attention to. Outside of that, you may have a directional move, but not going to be. Well, so I'll watch the bonds. If Rita's failure sets up, I'll consider it, but not much directional movement going on in the bond. So fade the edges on that one. Nasdaq made a pretty good move to the upside yesterday as well. They extended, and they extended a little bit convincingly too. They were up here. They really took it higher. So I would stay on the long side again on the Nasdaq. Look at the buy weakness against the 295 300s, against the 260s, 215 to 20s down to that ledge here, the 170s. The trade below that 170, I'll take off the long bias on the Nasdaq. A lot more volatility and range on the Nasdaq. So the 70s down here, the 170s is going to be right in that area. You see that 3-4 little ledge on the F1. That's where we start looking at trading back into that lower range. So we'll see if the Nasdaq can keep the momentum going to the upside, but they a nice move to the upside. You can see they've been price discovery. They're up to 25,400 and heading higher. So big moves on the upside on the Nasdaq. So, but I would give it all the way down to that 170 level before I take off the long bias on the Nasdaq. And on the way up, potentially shorts against the 350s and the 380s. Not going to be very aggressive on those. If you are back in the move out of the middle to the upside, and as such, you don't want to be very aggressive fading that. Just click in and clicked in and order. There you go. So that's the Nasdaq and the bonds. Finally, oil and gold. Gold not moving a whole lot. Finally, maybe found to run out of gas. We had one more extension day after that big rally. I'm expecting them to stick around 4,000 here, maybe a little bit higher here to build value. They did not extend in the overnight. They actually backed off, and look at that back off. They knocked it down. I was expecting that. Remember, I took that trade yesterday when they started taking out this support at the 50s. It happened in the overnight. The overnight took out that whole thing right down here to the 4020s and then right back up again. So that kind of stuff I'm looking for. You know, when they start taking out a key area like that, you know they have this whole area potential to test and retrace the whole thing. And that would have been a trade worth 50 down to the 20s, like $30 on gold. Every dollar is worth 100. It's worth $100. So no, sorry, every 10 is worth $100. So it's a 10. So it's this is the micros. So you're looking at a pretty good chunk of money, running it down all the way down here to that 4020s, and then retracing all the way right back up again. Volatile though, so you don't want to be very careful trading gold. So pay attention to the different opportunities you have out there, and then if they are materializing or not. Let's split this guy out like that. All right, so I would trade gold from the long side primarily. I think the overnight pretty much shook out the stuff we were looking for. So at this point, I would stay range bound, look to buy weakness against the 4050, 52, 53, and the 44, 45s. The trade below that London low, maybe we had another shot at the short side, but so looking to buy against these two support areas, and below that one, looking for a retracement trade again. I'm still leaning very much long. It's just that gold has that tendency to run and retrace pretty hard. So it could be a nice retracement trade in there. Still looking to buy against the 27, 28s, the 20s, down to the 13s here if they start retracing us. All right. On the way up, not going to be very aggressive on the short side at all, unless I see some failure on the lower end of this. Not going to be trying to step in front of the short side here at 65. 73 and the 80s. There could be shorts up there, but I would let it trade up there and stall and go sideways for a bit and fail to take out the highs before I try the short trade. And even then, it's kind of gnarly because gold tends to sit there, do back and forth like that before it pops again. So that's gold. And then finally, oil. Slowly grinding back to that 63 level, but it's not the straight shot by any means. This is like a slow grind. So far, the overnight hasn't extended or pulled back a whole lot, just going sideways. I would key in on this area though. I would look at that 62 and now also the 61.75. So these two, looking to buy against these two support areas for rotations up. Below that 61.75, we go back range bound. Otherwise, I would start on the long side to see if they can retest these highs, potentially take it higher. So looking for potential shorts against the 62.50s, 62.80s rotations down. But if they can't, but I wouldn't be. I'm looking for the shorts, but not very aggressively. I prefer the long side, and on the long side, below that 61.80, take off that long bias, go back range bound. So I'm expecting oil to run back up here to 63, 64. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Middle East peace situation could certainly change that dynamic and set oil prices on trajectory to the downside. If they could settle that whole area, yeah, that would be a pretty spectacular achievement, and that would probably have a good impact, a positive impact on prices on oil. In other words, coming down a bit. All right, back to the ES and kind of twisting in the wind where we left it. So question for today, are we going to see extensions to the upside? Are they going to be able to hold on to this, or are they going to back off the highs? Yesterday was one of those days that took me by surprise. I was expecting more of a range-bound day, but that turned into more of a bullish day, and then it'll pop at the end. So that goes to tell you, you never know what's going to happen. So you have to kind of adjust as the day kind of develops. All right, so we'll wrap it there for now, guys. I'll see you back at 11:30 for the next update. Good trading, and I'll see you back then.